Washington, the question has surfaced, who lost Iraq? Whenever America has asked this question, as it did with China in the 1950s or Vietnam in the 1970s, the most important point to remember is the local rulers did. The Chinese nationalists, the South Vietnamese government were corrupt, inefficient, and weak, unable to be inclusive and unwilling to fight with the dedication of their opponents. That same story is true of Iraq, only much more so. So the first answer to the question is Nouri al-Maliki lost Iraq. The Shiite prime minister and his ruling party have behaved like thugs, excluding the Sunnis from power, using the army, police forces, and militias to terrorize their opponents. But let's remember how Nouri al-Maliki came to be prime minister of Iraq in the first place. He was the product of a series of momentous decisions made by the Bush administration. Having invaded Iraq with a small force, what the expert Tom Ricks called the worst war plan in American history, the administration needed to find local allies fast. It quickly decided to destroy Iraq's Sunni ruling establishment and empower the hardline Shiite religious parties that had opposed Saddam Hussein. This meant that a structure of Sunni power that had undergirded the area, for better or worse, for centuries, quickly collapsed. These moves to disband the army, dismantle the bureaucracy, and purge Sunnis in general might have been more consequential than the actual decision to invade the country. If the Bush administration deserves a fair share of blame for losing Iraq, what about the Obama administration and its decision to withdraw all American forces from the country by the end of 2011? I would have preferred to see a small American force left in Iraq to try to prevent the country's collapse. But let's remember why this force is not in Iraq. Prime Minister Maliki refused to provide the guarantees that every other country in the world that hosts U.S. forces provides. Some commentators have blamed the Obama administration for negotiating badly or half-heartedly, and perhaps this is true. But here's what a senior Iraqi politician told me in the days the American deal was being discussed. It will not happen, he said. Maliki cannot allow American troops to stay on. Iran has made very clear to Maliki that its #1 demand is that there be no American troops remaining in Iraq, and Maliki owes them. This Iraqi politician reminded me that Maliki had spent more than 2 decades in exile, most of it in Tehran and Damascus, and his party had been funded by Iran for most of its existence. And in fact, Maliki's government has followed policies that have been, broadly speaking, pro-Iranian and pro-Syrian. Washington is debating whether airstrikes would work or training forces would be more effective, but its real problem is much larger and is a decade in the making. In Iraq, it is defending the indefensible.